When an organization becomes aware of a zero-day vulnerability, everything internally shifts into motion almost immediately. Security teams move through familiar rhythms, checking exposure, isolating systems, confirming versions, patching where possible, and escalating where needed. These steps happen quickly because the organization has already built the muscle memory to respond. The moment you look outward, though, the momentum changes. Vendors learn about the same vulnerability in very different ways and at very different times. Some hear about it through formal advisories, others through internal channels, others through support queues or external alerts. They are not wired into your operational cadence, and because of that, they rarely move on the same timeline you do. This difference is simply a function of being outside your infrastructure. The timing gap creates an exposure window that is easy to underestimate. While your internal systems are already being updated or isolated, your vendors may still be confirming whether the vulnerability applies to their environment or determining which teams need to be involved. During that period, you may be fully remediated while the vendor has still not received a notification from you. The result is an interim state where your overall risk posture is only as strong as the slowest point in the chain, even if everything internally has been handled exactly as it should. This is the part of vendor risk that is so often overlooked. Evaluating a vendor's certifications, onboarding documentation, and formal controls provides important information, but none of it tells you whether the vendor can match your response tempo during a real security event. A program that focuses only on static documentation can give the impression of maturity while leaving a significant gap in the moment when speed matters most. Most third-party exposure events are born in that gap, not in the absence of controls. A more capable vendor risk approach recognizes that the heart of the problem is not the vendor's security posture but the lack of synchronized action. The question becomes how quickly you can bring a vendor into the same response cycle your internal teams follow. When you can send precise, time-sensitive requests and receive meaningful confirmation without delay, that timing gap begins to narrow. The relationship becomes more resilient because the vendor is no longer responding on their own internal schedule, they are responding in alignment with yours. This shift changes the entire dynamic. Vendor risk management stops being something that operates in the background and becomes a component of real-time security strategy. It allows you to treat vendors not as distant entities but as active participants in your environment's stability. When they can move at your pace, you gain a far more reliable picture of your actual exposure, and crises become easier to contain. And this is where a platform like Centraleyes shines. It gives organizations the ability to translate a new vulnerability into specific vendor outreach without delay, and to pull those responses back into a single, coherent view of risk. Nothing replaces the judgment of a security team, but having the infrastructure to close that timing gap, consistently and without improvisation, makes the entire vendor ecosystem far easier to manage when speed matters most.